Hello children, welcome to 7th Science online classes. Chapter 10 Respiration in Organisms. So today we will start the new lesson, Respiration in Organisms. Okay, why do we respire? All the living organisms are made up of small microscopic units called the cells. So this you studied in the first chapter. Okay, all organisms, all living things are made up of some cells. These cells have different functions to perform in these organisms such as digestion, respiration, transportation and excretion. Many processes are there in our body. So these all functions are done by these cells. The cells can perform this function only if they get the energy to do so. So for doing that function, the cells need energy. So from where these cells get energy? Hence, all living organisms need food which gives them the required energy. So where the cells get energy from the food. Okay, all living things they consume the food. So from that food, that cells give energy, and using that energy, the cells do all the functions in our body. The energy present in the food gets released when the organisms respire or breathe. So this energy present in the food, that energy released from the food by this process, that process is called respiration. Okay, and breathing is a part of respiration. Got it, children? So we need energy, or our cells need energy to do the functions in our body, and this energy get from the food that we consumed, and that energy in the food released by the process of respiration. And breathing is also the part of respiration. Okay. How food helps us in gaining energy? So we already said that the cells get energy from food. As we breathe, we take in the air that contains oxygen in it and breathe out air which contains carbon dioxide. This concept you already know, that when you take a breath, so all of you take a deep breath. So that time first you take in air, so that is breathe in, breathe, take in air, and that contains oxygen rich air, so that air contain more oxygen. And when you breathe out, that time that air contains carbon dioxide, so you expel out carbon dioxide. And this oxygen when transported to our cells helps in breaking down the food and we get energy. Okay, so we consumed the food and cells getting the energy from food. But how they can take energy from the food? The oxygen we breathe in, that time that oxygen go to that cells and break down the food and we get energy. Okay, then what is cellular respiration? Cellular respiration can be defined as the process in which the food that we eat is broken down inside the cells, which results in the release of energy. It's very easy. The answer is actually it is in this word, cellular respiration. Respiration inside the cell. That is the cellular respiration. Cellular respiration defined as the process in which the food that we eat is broken down inside the cells, which results in the release of energy. So that food break down inside the cell and energy release. That process is called cellular respiration, or that respiration happened inside the cells. That is called cellular respiration. all the cells in living organisms undergo cellular respiration. All the cells. In living cells, all the cells undergo cellular respiration. So, okay children, what is cellular respiration? The food breakdown inside the cells which results in the release of energy, or respiration takes place in the cells, that is called cellular respiration. Next is types of respiration. So mainly two types of respirations are there: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So I'm repeating once again that two words: aerobic, aerobic, A-E-R-O-B-I-C, aerobic respiration, and anaerobic, A-N-A-E-R-O-B-I-C, anaerobic respiration. Now we'll see what is aerobic respiration. This kind of respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. Okay, so we already discussed that oxygen, when you breathe in, that time take oxygen, and that oxygen break down the food and release energy. Okay, that kind of respiration is called aerobic respiration. So aerobic means that happened in presence of oxygen. Okay, the respiration happened in the presence of oxygen, it is called aerobic respiration. And anaerobic respiration, just opposite of aerobic. This type of respiration happens in the cells in the absence of oxygen. Here in aerobic respiration, in presence of oxygen, but in the case of anaerobic respiration, it is happened in the absence of oxygen. Breakdown of food in the absence of oxygen. That is the main difference of aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration means respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration means respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. Okay. Next, second point, glucose. So glucose means the food, our food that contains mainly glucose, carbohydrate that contain glucose, and that glucose breakdown. So you can see this arrow. Okay, and with the use of oxygen, or in the presence of oxygen, what are the things released? Carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Okay, carbon dioxide, water, and energy released. So we also aerobic respiration, when we consumed food and cells break down that food, and that food is called glucose, and that glucose in the presence of oxygen, that oxygen, and we get energy. That time we expel out carbon dioxide and water in present as sweat. Okay, that is called that is water. So carbon dioxide, water, energy released out in aerobic respiration. And what about anaerobic respiration? Glucose, the breakdown food, that is glucose, without the use of oxygen, or in the absence of oxygen, what are the things released? Carbon dioxide, same like aerobic respiration. Here also carbon dioxide and energy, but here what is the difference? Here alcohol. Okay, here water. In aerobic respiration it is water, but in anaerobic respiration it is alcohol. So all of you study now only. Okay, now you study by heart it. Glucose breakdown in the presence of oxygen, and products are carbon dioxide, water, and energy. These things are released out. And in anaerobic, glucose without the use of oxygen, or in the absence of oxygen, carbon dioxide, same like carbon dioxide, then here water, but here it is alcohol. In anaerobic respiration, alcohol, and okay, same as aerobic respiration, energy also released. So these 2 points you by heart know. First one, aerobic respiration, the kind of respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen, but in the case of anaerobic respiration, absence of oxygen. And here products are carbon dioxide, water, energy, but in anaerobic respiration, carbon dioxide, alcohol, and energy. Now some examples. Aerobic respiration, human beings and many other animals undergo aerobic respiration. Human beings and many other animals, okay, that undergo aerobic respiration. And in anaerobic respiration, yeast is a fungi, okay. Yeast and sometimes human beings undergo anaerobic respiration. Sometimes human beings, that we will see later. Now you just understand the examples. Anaerobic respiration seen in yeast and sometimes human beings. And yeast means what? Yeast is a single-celled organism. It has only one cell, and it is used to preparing the bread or cake. You know that yeast. Okay, that is a single cell, only one cell. Its body contain only one cell. And next, aerobic respiration. Carbon dioxide and water are also released according with the energy. Okay, carbon dioxide and water. Same point repeating here. But here, animal muscle cells release lactic acid and yeast release alcohol and carbon dioxide in anaerobic respiration. So this point, animal muscle cells release lactic acid, that we will discuss later. Now you just see here carbon dioxide and alcohol release, that okay, yeast. But in some animals or in our human beings also, sometimes we release lactic acid. Okay, so these are this very important, the difference of aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So all of you by heart now itself. Okay, aerobic means presence of oxygen. Anaerobic means absence of oxygen. In aerobic respiration, carbon dioxide, water, energy released. In anaerobic respiration, carbon dioxide, alcohol, energy released. Examples in aerobic, human beings and other animals. Anaerobic, yeast and sometimes human beings. And aerobic respiration, okay, carbon dioxide and water released. And anaerobic respiration, animal muscles, lactic acid. And in the case of yeast, carbon dioxide and alcohol released. Next, anaerobes. Organisms that can exist in the absence of air are called anaerobes. Okay, or their respiration in the absence of oxygen, it is called anaerobe. That is called that organisms are called anaerobes. Then they undergo anaerobic respiration, hence can get energy even without oxygen. So anaerobic means they are not using oxygen but they get energy. For example, yeast. These are unicellular organisms that exist in the absence of oxygen as well. Unicellular means only one cell. These points are repeating, the same points, okay? We already discussed and the same points we are repeating. Yeast is anaerobe and it is a unicellular organism, and their respiration happened in the absence of oxygen. That is why they are called anaerobes. Okay. Then as a byproduct, they release ethanol and carbon dioxide, or you can tell that alcohol. This is one kind of alcohol is ethanol. You can tell that alcohol. They release alcohol and carbon dioxide. That is why they are used to make wine and beer. This is called as alcohol fermentation. So this yeast is used to you know that it is used for the preparation of this cake and bread. Okay, the same thing is used for to make wine and beer. So this is called as alcohol fermentation. So that is about anaerobes. Next, anaerobic respiration in human beings. So we told that in human beings, aerobic respiration, that is respiration in presence of oxygen, but sometimes we also use this kind of respiration, anaerobic respiration. When? We will see. Sometimes muscles of human beings can respire without oxygen. Muscles of human beings. This generally happens when we undergo a heavy exercise such as running, weightlifting, cycling, or walking for a longer duration. So when we are doing this anaerobic respiration after a heavy exercise. In such situations, the muscles require more energy and the supply of oxygen is not enough. So that breathing after heavy exercise, we cannot get we are not getting sufficient oxygen because we can't breathe that time after heavy exercise. So our body is not getting sufficient oxygen. So that time our muscles perform this respiration, anaerobic respiration. Hence, anaerobic respiration takes place in the muscles. As a result of muscles also produce lactic acid along with energy. So they produce lactic acid. This lactic acid accumulates in the muscles and causes cramps. So sometimes after heavy exercise our muscles feel pain, that is called cramps. Okay, so that time this anaerobic respiration time lactic acid produce, energy also produce and lactic acid produce. So this lactic acid accumulate in our muscles and it causes some pain. So during heavy exercise we feel that I'm very tiredness and we need more energy. So that time our muscles perform some anaerobic respiration without the presence of oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, they perform anaerobic respiration and lactic acid produced and energy also produced. So that lactic acid, when the lactic acid produced more in our body, they accumulate or they store in some of our muscles and we feel some pain or that is called cramps. Yes, that is why we often feel cramps while we do heavy exercise. In order to get a relief from cramps, we can take a hot water bath or massage our muscles. See here in the picture. And these things you also observe or you can also experience this kind of things after heavy exercise or in your school or anything uh, after a football match. For that time, you also felt like that. Okay, so that time for getting the relief, you use some hot water massage or bath on that affected areas. This is so because hot water bath or massage improves the blood circulation in the muscles. So how we feel pain because of the accumulation of lactic acid. So sometimes here lactic acid accumulated and there is a block of blood circulation. So when we apply this hot water massage or that water bath or something here, that time it improves the blood circulation and we get the relief from the pain. As a result, the oxygen reaches the cells easily, which breaks down the lactic acid into carbon dioxide and water. So that time blood circulation improves and through the blood oxygen reaches to all the cells and it breaks the lactic acid, that accumulated lactic acid, and release carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so that time we get relief from pain. See here glucose. So in anaerobic respiration in our muscles, the glucose break down to lactic acid and energy. But in the case of yeast, that is also anaerobic respiration. In that time, glucose break down to release energy, carbon dioxide, and alcohol in yeast. But in our human beings, after heavy exercise, glucose break down to lactic acid and energy. Next is breathing. So we already said that breathing is a part of respiration. Breathing means taking in air rich in oxygen and giving out air rich in carbon dioxide with the help of respiratory organs. So we have many respiratory organs that we will study in the next class. So in that, using that organs, we take in air. First we take in air. That air contain oxygen. Okay, that contain oxygen, and give out air that contain carbon dioxide. Okay, so breathe in. That time that air contain more oxygen, and we breathe out. That air contains more carbon dioxide gas. Inhalation is the process of taking the air that contains oxygen inside the body. So that taking oxygen rich air, that process is called inhalation. Inhalation. And exhalation, that is just opposite, that is the release of air that contains carbon dioxide. That process is called exhalation. So first we inhale, then exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, so inhalation means take in air, oxygen rich air. Exhalation means breathe out or releasing out air that contains carbon dioxide. Inhalation and exhalation takes place alternatively in the breathing process. So breathing means what? One inhalation and one exhalation. So all of you just take air inside, then breathe out. That is called one breathing. Right? Okay, so one breathing contains one inhalation and one exhalation. Breathing rate can be defined as the number of times a person breathes in a minute. This you can also do this using a stopwatch. In 1 minute, how many times you breathe. So one breathing means take in air, exhale out or inhalation and exhalation. That is called one breathing. So using the stopwatch, you can also count your breathing rate. So breathing rate can be defined as the number of times a person breathes in a minute. A breath can be defined as an inhalation followed by an exhalation. The breathing rate is not always constant in human beings. We generally breathe faster when our body needs more energy, for example, while exercising. So our breathing rate, in a normal time, our breathing rate is also normal. When we just take in or inhalation, then exhalation, that is in the normal way. But after doing some work or after doing the exercise or something, that time the breathing rate is more. Why? Because that time we need more energy. So that time we are taking more oxygen. So that is why our breathing rate is more and more. This is so because the body needs more oxygen that can break down the food and produce more energy. Next point, an average adult human being, a grown-up person, breathes 15 to 18 times in a minute. In 1 minute, 15 to 18, and it is not constant in all persons. That is vary from person to person. Some have 15, some have 16, some have 18, like that. While exercising, this rate can change up to 25 times a minute. So after exercise or after doing any heavy work, that time you just check that breathing rate. That time you can see that that is not 15 to 18, that is more than 25 times or around 25 in a minute. Next, why do we feel hungry after doing a physical activity like walking or running? Yes. So after doing any exercise, walking or running, we feel hungry. Why? When we do a physical activity, the food that is present in our body is converted into energy. And this energy is used for many processes in our body. Okay. And since all the food gets consumed in generating the energy, we start feeling hungry. So when we are doing exercise or any physical activity, we need more energy. So that full energy get from our food. So that over, so we need food for getting energy. Hence, in order to gain more energy, we need to eat more food. Okay, children. So it's a very easy chapter, and you can read your textbook also, but I am insisting you to watch the video. Watch the video. From the video you can study. Okay, because I'm giving the very important points in that chapter. So you can read your textbook, okay, and watch the video. Give more importance to this video. So from here you can study well. Okay, children. So okay, thank you. All the best.